Hello and welcome developers, my name is Shay and this is another episode of Shay Develops. Today we're going to be talking about constructors in Java. Now you may not know what a constructor is, but that's the reason for the video. They are a method used to create an instance of a class. That is their sole purpose, it's what they do. Now you may not exactly get that, but we're about to break into it and I'm going to show you how that all works. So for starters, let's go ahead and create a new class within our project here. We're going to just call it example. And also remember, based off of the naming conventions, your constructor should and your class should both have start with a capital letter. So we'll see also again that here in a minute. So let's give our new class a couple of fields that we need to use to give to our constructor to allow it to instantiate the class itself with some actual data. So we'll create private string name, and then we'll private int amount. So with this, we're going to create like some kind of widget application that says what widget you have and how many of them that you have, or something like that, right? So right now we could use we want to be able to use this within our main method whenever we want to create a new widget and tell the amount of the widget. Well, we have to do a little bit more, and that's where the constructor comes in. Now I'm going to do a little bit of shorthand with IntelliJ, but that's pressing Alt and the insert command, and that brings up this little menu here. You press constructor, and then you tell it based off of what fields you have right here. You can create a constructor with those fields. Now I don't need to select both of these. I can just create a constructor with one field or no fields if I wanted to. But let's go ahead and make it one with two. So you'll see we start out here with our access modifier, which is public, meaning that it's allowed to be used outside of this class. And then we have the name, and again you'll see that it starts with a capital letter and it's the same as the name of the class that it's also given. And then it's going to take two arguments or parameters, one being a string value and another one being an integer value. And then we're saving that to this instance of our example class, right? So if we come over here on this side and we say, I want some widgets, right? So we'll do example widget 1 equals new, and this is example right here, and we still get this error. That means we need to bypass it the names of, or the values in the constructor that we want it to instantiate this constructor with. So we'll do our name, so our first one's a string, so I'm going to use the double quotes. We'll just call it widget 1, and then we need to give it an amount. So let's give it an amount of, and this is an integer, so we'll just say 12, right? Something simple. And that's right here, this part right here, this example widget 1 amount 12, that's the constructor part. That's what's being called whenever you are creating and then instantiating a new example class. So see, we have this example class, and then we want to create a new one and then save it into our variable widget 1 with the fields that it has being the name and the amount, which is widget 1 and the amount of 12. So let's go ahead and create another widget. So I'm just going to copy and paste this, and we'll create this, and this will be widget 2, and we'll give it an amount of 245. Sure, that works. And then if we wanted to call upon these widgets and then the name and the stuff inside of them, we could do something like this: output widget 1, and then we can do another one for widget 2, and we'll run this, and you're going to see exactly what happens. You might be surprised to see what happens. You might not be. You might already kind of understand this, but we see we get a reference to, I'll make this a little bigger so you can see that. And actually I should make this text a little bigger. And it's not doing that this time. I'm gonna have to figure out why. I just do a fresh install of Windows on this, so it may not be set up. But for the time being, let's go ahead and move on. You'll see down here that we're getting a reference to the values of our class, of our object. So if you watch my objects video, you'll know that whenever you create an object, the value stored within the variable is not the value itself. It's the reference to where the value is actually being stored on the heap stack, right? So if you want to actually get access to this, we could probably try like, oh man, let's do like a dot notation dot name. Oh, that doesn't work. Well, there's other ways for you to do that, and that's using getters and setters. Now, I can make a whole nother video on that as well, but let's go ahead and show you guys real quick some stuff that we can do as far as like getting that data back out real quick with the getters. So we'll create a getter. I'm using Alt Insert, coming down to my getter, and then I can create a getter for either of these. Now another way would be to make these public, change the access modifier to public, but that's generally bad practice because you don't want people being able to access your fields. You want them accessing a method that accesses the field. So as you can see, this get name, it's public, returns name. So if we were to go out here and do widget1.getName right here, and then rerun that again, we're going to get widget1, and then you'll see the next one right here. You see it says widget1, and then this one right here is still the reference to our object. So we actually do widget2. We could do get name here as well, but we could also do get amount. And let's go ahead and output that. So you'll see widget1 and then 245. And that's how you get your field data that's inside your constructors. Now say that you passed that you want to be able to control what's being passed to these constructor values. So say if the amount has to be greater than 1, like, well, okay, if the amount that's passed is less than 0, we want to set this dot amount to equal 0, else we want to take this dot amount and set it equal to the value that they input that they're wanting to create. So then if we go in here and we change this value to negative 245, run this again, it should say widget1 and then 0. So you can put a little bit of logic within your constructor as well. But just remember, the reason why the constructors are there is to create an instance of that class, so then you can then use the class. Because if it's not there, you can't do anything with the class, at least not at this particular area in here. Now if we were to create a static method or something like that, and then it's possible, but that's not what we're doing here. We'll be making another video on that in the future. But also keep in mind though that this constructor method, it's not like your other methods that you might create, like this public string get name or public and get amount. You're not returning anything. See, there's no return value or return statements like there is right here. And that's just because what the constructor does, it's not intended to return a value at all. It's just intended to create and instantiate the object that you're creating, regardless of whatever the object is. It could be one you made up, it could be one that's already pre-built within Java, like string or something like that, but they're already there. Now say you forget to put in a constructor at all, right? Say we just copy all this stuff out, and then we create it and we instantiate our example again. Well, what happens is, you can see this still works. What happens is the Java compiler will automatically add a constructor with no arguments to your class. And so that might confuse you guys a little bit if you're like, oh, well, why is this actually working and producing null? And that's why. It's because if you don't provide a constructor, Java will do it on itself, and that's actually not producing null. The null is coming from this right here. So it wasn't able to pass anything to get to the name value. So whenever we get the name, there's nothing there. So it's just an empty part of the object. All right, but other than that, that's it for constructors as far as now. I mean, they do go a little deeper, but as far as just a basic understanding of what they do, that's it. Just remember that these constructor classes or constructor methods are used to create an instance of a class. That's their goal in the Java programming life, is to create an instance of the class. Their names must be capitalized. Well, it's not they must be capitalized, but that is usually the naming convention, and that's how you want to continue on with that. They don't return anything, and they can take and access modifiers. So like if I wanted to make this public and turn it to private or something like that, they can do that. And that you would want to do that, say if you were it was like a child of another class or something like that, and you didn't want other classes or being able to call upon the child of the class, you just want to be able to call upon the child within the parent of that class, then that you might want to set that to private on for those reasons right there. And also to remember, if you don't supply a constructor, Java will supply one for you. It's like getting arrested and you don't have, a lawyer. The state will apply you one if you can't get one on your own, but you should usually specify your own constructor, because this will be a lot better off for you. All right, guys, I hope you learned something. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, do whatever it is you got to do. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you're trying. Let me know what you guys are working on, what you're struggling with. Put it in the comments. I'll do my very best to help you out as best I can. Stay tuned for the next video. Y'all are awesome. Take care.